What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're in Florida right now and we're picking up Gixxer 750. Anyway, we are picking up a wrecked R7. Let's load it up. Well, we have made it back to the shop. Now it's time to tear into this R7. Like you saw, it was pretty hard to roll into the garage because the rim is split in half. Man, I love working on Yamahas. They are just such good looking bikes. We removed the front windscreen along with the mirrors and this front plastic stay bracket that houses those side marker lights that just look so good on these newer R6s, R7s, and R1s. And thankfully these are in good condition even though they're not very expensive from Yamaha direct. But now we're getting down to some metal damage. As you can see, this bracket is pushed pretty far back. That dash is not supposed to be upright like that. And another telltale sign is the paint is chipping here, which means that metal has been bent. Both the left and the right side handlebars are broken. Here is your headlight control module that sits behind the front fairing, along with the cool R7 center light and the dash plug for the dash. And then we're gonna remove this whole stay piece next. Let's keep going. This is a lot of fun. So we're making good progress in the front. We got the clip-ons off of those forks, and we've got the triple tree and pretty much every single wire in the front just dangling right now because of that bent stay bracket. Thankfully, no frame damage on the main frame and very minimal scuffs on the front forks. This 2023 R7 is throttled by cable, so we'll need to be ordering another one of these assemblies, along with levers on both sides and some controls on the handlebars. Now, a fun fact with this R7 that I did not know, this is a 2-cylinder that adapts the crossplane crankshaft in it. This engine is similar to the MT-07, but I believe its gear ratio is different. That probably explains why it's super torquey. I'm fascinated with these Yamahas. Let's keep working on it and start removing these busted up front and rear rims that are definitely gonna need to be replaced. And just like that, both of the damaged wheels are off. I'm a huge fan of the spoke design on these black R7 wheels. These are 10-spoke wheels and they look good. Too bad both of them are pretty damaged beyond repair. Now all the components on this rear wheel are still usable and savable. I can swap that over to the new wheel. But as you can see on this front wheel, it has completely warped both of these rotors due to this rim literally just blowing apart. Now upon removing that rear wheel, I found something that made me super happy. This piece right here is way, way cooler than you think. This piece right here slots into the swing arm and is literally interchangeable if you ever drop your bike. At first, I thought that was part of the swing arm, but I was super happy when I saw that this sucker just comes right off. These are practically like Yamaha saying, here are some OEM frame sliders. And they have these cool pieces on both sides of the axle, and that just makes this whole rebuilding process that much easier because, hey, if you ever drop your bike, you can easily swap a new one in. Another fascinating thing to me is this piece completely just slides right out of this very thin swing arm. And this is your chain adjustment. Both sides slip out and slip in very easily, making the chain adjustment very, very simple. And of course, you've got your classic brake caliper mounting on the swing arm right about there with that little slot going into the groove. Now moving up to the front, I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this front axle is bent. Makes sense with the damage on that front wheel and how thin this axle is. And here are your wheel spacers. They are the exact same on each side, so it's impossible to mess these up. You've got your wheel speed sensor plate, which is actually like sunken into the wheel. And this is your front wheel speed sensor, which sticks right through this hole. But now let's move up to the top and start to remove the rest of these damaged parts. here are all the damaged parts from the rear of the R7 that we have removed so far. The ugly tail that has a couple connectors on it, the taillight, and the side fairing pieces along with some metal brackets. They make this tail pretty easy to remove because under here are 3 connectors, white, gray, and black, for that tail piece that you simply unplug and remove. Now on top of that, we have the bike's brain, the ECU, which simply just mounts on these rubber tabs and is nice and snug in place. Now on top of that is this red connector, which is our data port connector, which is where you would either flash the bike or scan the bike for faults or DTCs. And DTC stands for Diagnostic Trouble Code. Now in some of my older videos, you guys may have seen me use bags for all the bolts on these rebuilds. But over the last couple rebuilds, I've been just simply threading the bolts back into place on where I originally took them out, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Except when you're building a bike from scratch. That doesn't work out. Anyway, we've got our standard fuses right here for turn signals, headlights, all 7.5, 10, and 15 amps in both of these boxes. And then we have our starter relay right there. And I'm sure you guys know what that is. That's our battery. And I'm a big fan of these tube subframes. And on top of all that is this very cushiony OEM seat for the R7, and it has a tool bag strapped right underneath it. I actually have no idea what's in here. Let's open it up. Wow, looks like we've got a shock adjustment tool. That's pretty handy. 14mm and 12mm wrench, and this sucker looks like a breaker bar. It does fit on the end of the shock wrench pretty well, so this might be just to get some more leverage if you need to adjust that thing. These are actually some pretty useful tools compared to what usually comes in a tool bag. Now that we're done in the rear, let's move on to the tank. This R7 sure does have a funky tank compared to what we're used to working on. And it doesn't look to be that big of a tank either. So we removed the tank cowl pieces and luckily, no damage on the tank. Now a pretty cool design on this R7 is they throw the throttle bodies and the airbox up and backwards. Right here you have your intake because right behind this cover is the airbox, and then right there you can see those are the throttle bodies. Here is your throttle by cable, and at the front of the bike you have your ABS module right in the front of the bike, which is not usually what we regularly see. Most of the time the ABS module is mounted in the rear subframe. And here's another look at the airbox right here, the throttle bodies right there, and your air intake right here, which is just not your usual layout on a sport bike. All of the front end controls all connect back down here, which is where they unplug from the main harness. Here's the rectifier for the battery voltage and your coolant reservoir, which is mounted all the way down here. There's another shot of the throttle bodies going into the airbox. Now what we need to do next is get to this radiator because there's a hole in it, which is unfortunate because this thing is pristine other than this hole. We also need to address these forks because the bottom of these forks is actually leaking, but neither the right or the left side seals are leaking at all, which is strange to me. And something funky with these forks is there's actually a bolt all the way up in there. I don't know if it's leaking from there, but it's leaking on both sides. And on the outside, these forks are as dry as can be. But that is gonna be for another day, so we will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.